So in terms of the football skills or the rugby skills or whatever, they develop. The early developers sometimes never develop the skills and never develop the skills. And when everybody else's bodies catch up, they disappear off the scene.
Hi there and welcome. And in this video, we continue storytelling with Bertie Roux. Bertie, thanks for joining me.
Always a pleasure.
All right. In one of your previous, in the previous video we did, you spoke about, your hip fractures, and you were talking about all these things. And one thing that struck me that I wanted to talk to you about is this concept of some people just are late bloomers. They don't peak when everybody else peaks, but when they peak, it's a significant peak. You don't have to be a superstar at 12. You don't have to be a prefect and a head boy when you matriculate, because your time might not have come yet. It might not be in your season yet. You don't have to be a top level executive at 25 or even 35. You want to talk to us a little bit about that concept?
Yeah, it's something that is, I think, worrying to everybody, because if we think in organizations, we think of parenting and all of that, we are all challenged. We are all challenged all the time to perform at our peak, what the peak may be. And we have spoken many times about unrealistic expectations, and I always come back to the concept of unrealistic expectations, because the unrealistic expectations refer to myself, me and my life, my future, as well as the organization I'm involved with, the family circle I'm in, my own blood family. So in your friendship circles, it's all of those things. You are trying to live a life according to other people's expectations and not necessarily yours. You might not emotionally be ready, you may not be physically ready, but you are compared. And you fall into that trap and into that rat race that you have to perform at other people's expectations and their the standards, but you are not ready yet. As you say, it's quite right. And anyway, we were all born unique. No argument about that. We were gifted by God. Some of us, unfortunately, take the rest of our lives to find out what was those gifts that we were entrusted with. As the Bible says, it's under the bucket, saved, saved for God. I'm not going to play with it. I'm going to lose it. But He actually gave it to you so that you can use it to to His good. So He's entrusted that to you. And so we don't know that. So many people, as I relate to that and saying, then instead of being unique and grow your life according to your uniqueness and develop yourself in order to stand out, you live your life trying to fit in. And that's unfortunate, the case with many people. They've got enormous expectations of themselves. They either don't share it with anybody, or they go to bed with that every day and stand up and get up in the morning with the same, do nothing about it. But those are others that desire to live up to their personal expectations. Initially, it might be somebody else's expectations, school, whatever the case may be. But as you say, you're late developers physically. You're a late bloomer. Come to your right in terms of later on. So the school, and from my point of view, would never be a projection of your future. The school is a place where everybody is taught the same story the same way, and expectations is the same, and sometimes pressurized in corners, and some of us give and others we don't. Some are there for early developers physically and in terms of sport applied in the first teams or the main teams, but not all of us therefore are ready yet for that. And we do, as an ex-teacher myself started out there, we sometimes do not only ourselves an injustice, but they do that individual an injustice. And that's where the unrealistic expectations come from mom and dad. Because maybe dad was a sportsman, or mum was exceptionally good. And now the kids must follow in their footsteps, but they are different. And they may be late bloomers for that matter. So for them to stand out in the crowd, it's going to take a while. And we know that a tree that grow in the normal northern hemisphere takes longer to grow. It is much more solid than the tree that grow in the southern hemisphere, where it's warmer. It grows much quicker. So if I take a pine tree in the southern hemisphere versus the northern hemisphere, the wood and the application, the use of that wood is totally different. I mean, I won't necessarily make furniture out of them, whilst the northern hemisphere oak, I can compare with the southern hemisphere's oak or black tree wood, much higher quality and hard and soft. So, and that is our personal development as well. So we must understand that we are not all the same. And understand, the school must understand, and the parents must understand where I'm at. So if you're a late bloomer, just some people develop quicker. I know always my wife loved this. She was also an ex-teacher. She said when the kids move into the teens and their body develop out of sync, either their legs are longer, their arms are longer, everything later on catch up. But you're all out of shape, and so you fall over easily, not balanced, whatever. But that's life. But we need to understand that, and we need to be guided as young people by people that understand the development. And I always relate it, and even when I was a teacher, when we talk about sport, that the early developer, physically, sometimes end up playing the first teams and in the teams because of their size, either bulk or length and whatever. So they get into position, so they never develop necessarily the ball skills necessary which the late developer has to do, because the late developer must understand that he's competing with that big one, but he doesn't have the weight, so he must compete here. So in terms of the football skills or the rugby skills or whatever they develop, the early developer sometimes never develop the skills and never develop the skills, and when everybody else's bodies catch up, they disappear off the scene. And people will ask, but now he was so good at high school. What happened? He never developed the skills and the drive and the fighting spirit that the late developer had, because they had to fight. It's almost like being bullied. You had to fight your way through because you're smaller. You're always down there. You're ignored. And that applied to leadership and all those positions. If you take those leaders from school and you follow them into life after school, you ask yourself the question, what happened to those leaders? What happened to those leaders? Did they develop any skills that they could apply further on? No, they didn't. Most of them fall out. They're not in leading positions and situations. So if this addresses your question, your statement, I'm saying, it's a true fact that we need to understand that, and the role that parents can play and teachers can play in the development of the person, the individual, that doesn't develop as quick as the others. They do catch up, but they are the ones that persist because they've learned tenacity, they've learned fighting spirit. They need to get up from being down, and you grow a different and a stronger person, my personal view.
So there you have it. You don't have to be ready at a certain time. If you're a late bloomer, are you a late bloomer? I'd love to hear from you. Tell me your story. Tell me how things worked out for you later in life, and how that changed things, and how that you came into the context that you are now, and how that affects you and whatever you experience. We'd love to hear from you. Thank you for watching this video. We'll see you in the next one.